Yo, welcome to episode 13 of the Put On podcast. Got my guy D here. It's Cal. What's good, D?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I think a good place to start would probably be it's November 1st. We're in the second last month of the year. Winter is in full swing, at least for me. But Halloween was yesterday. I know you got kids. What'd you do?
I was at their school in the morning. Like they did like a little kind of parade thing, and then
Oh, there's a
they,
school Halloween parade? Like everyone dresses up and they parade around?
yeah, all the kids dress up, and by the way, my youngest dressed up as SpongeBob SquarePants, right?
That's great. Do you have a
Classic.
photo?
I do, yeah, and then my oldest wanted to dress up as Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Eagles QB.
He's not even like an Eagles fan. He's just had the jersey and just ran. It's funny because I feel like that's what kids do. They just have like the random idea, and it's like
Is
that's what I'm gonna be. Jalen Hurts.
So you had SpongeBob and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, SpongeBob and Jalen Hurts.
Could have done like SpongeBob and Patrick or something. That would have been cool.
I know. That's what I said to him. I said you should have either been like Squidward, and he's like I would never have been Squidward. I would have been Patrick.
Patrick, yeah, Patrick's a better character, but
Yes.
and then you guys went around like your neighborhood, or
Yeah, and then I left work a little bit early and took them around the neighborhood, and Halloween is such a precious thing, man, with the kids. They love it so much, right?
yeah,
It's hard. I was thinking, like, can I remember what it was like to go trick or treating when I was a kid? And I was really having a hard time, like, having those vivid memories. But what I remember is the excitement of it. And then at a certain age, like the kids in my neighborhood started like chasing after each other and throwing eggs at each other. So like I was like scared for a part of it, like
yeah,
like a portion of my childhood because the older kids would be like, gunning us down with the eggs or whatever.
yeah.
And but anyways, yeah, fun for the whole family. My kids were all, hopped up on sugar.
It's Halloween's the interesting one too. Like I normally don't hand out candy, but I have like my own spot, and I did buy some candy and was handing it out occasionally. But then like want to have dinner, and everyone's like ringing your doorbell, so I just like left the thing out at the front. And I was telling you before, I do have a ring doorbell, so I just wanted to see because if it was me outside and I saw a full bowl, I'm taking the whole bowl. Like literally, I'm taking
Right.
the bowl. So yeah, I just wanted and
You would take the whole bowl of candy?
yeah,
Why?
just because I'm a shit. Like, but but nah, I think because it's interesting too. You're talking about growing up in Halloween. It's such a North American thing because in the U.S. and Canada, obviously I'm in Canada, you're in the U.S. It's a
Yeah.
big thing. Kids love it. School parades, like bro. In like Dubai and Singapore, where I would have been trick or treating, it's very like the North American families. If you got the North American families in your neighborhood, they'll hand out candy. But like I remember in Dubai, like going around and maybe one in every 30 houses would have candy. Like, so it wasn't a part of my, until I came to Canada, it wasn't part, like, we would still dress up and there'd be like someone would throw like a Halloween party, but it wasn't trick or treating, wasn't really a thing. Um,
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that too because I live in a neighborhood that's pretty diverse. I was trick or treating with some of like the parents of the kids that my son is friends with, and some of them were one of them's from Jordan, one of them is from India, and it was like I was asking them like, do you remember when you went trick or treating as a kid? And they were like, we didn't do Halloween as a kid, like in India and in Jordan, respectively. So
yeah,
um, yeah, I thought for whatever reason I thought that it was just like everywhere,
no,
but it turns out you're right. It is maybe mostly just a North American type of thing.
yeah. I mean, and to that point, the most memorable Halloween story for me was the first year we moved to Dubai, and I was like, damn, okay, we're gonna get a proper Halloween. And I remember having like soccer practice that night, and kind of came out of soccer practice at whatever, like 6 o'clock, got all dressed up in the car, and then like my dad like took me to either meet some friends or like go and try to trick or treat, but there was no more candy, like because there's only a few houses that do it. So instead of actually getting to trick or treat, he had to take me to the grocery store gave me maybe $30 and I had to go pick out like my favorite candies from the grocery store because I was not getting that trick or treat experience. So uh yeah, that's the most memorable
I love that.
thing for me.
That's
But yeah,
great.
it's so cool, man. I love seeing like the kids smile and shit. Not to be like all suppy, but it's cool. Like now,
No, it is, and the kids love it so much. Yo, it's funny. I was driving, like I was upstate, and there was like some sort of Halloween. Like kids were it was kids and their parents like trick or treating, and it was on a Saturday last weekend, and there were like a bunch of kids crossing the street, and then there was just one guy like by himself, and he was in a Michael Myers like costume.
oh
I
really?
was just like, that's freaky, man. Like,
Was,
what?
was he
Who would just
older?
get what?
Was how young was he?
He was an adult in a Michael Myers costume, like broad daylight. Yeah,
That's crazy.
is that weird? Anyways, I want to ask you, top, what's your favorite Halloween candy? Give it to me.
My favorite Halloween candy probably has gotta be the. I feel like you're not gonna. I feel like there's some animosity here. The Hershey's cookies and cream chocolate bar.
Hershey's cookies and cream chocolate bar. I can't hate on that. I mean, I love cookies and cream as a flavor, and but like that's your number one. That's your number one of all time.
It's the thing that comes to mind first. What's yours?
I'm a big. I like 100 grand. It's not something I would ever eat
Never heard.
outside of Halloween. You've never heard of 100 grand?
Never.
Wow. It's like a Three Musketeers bar, or a Milky Way, but it has like crunch too. That's what it's kind of like. It's like a Milky
Milky
Way. It's
Ways.
got like the new what?
I like Milky Ways.
Yeah, Milky Ways. What's like the candy that you see and you're just like trash, like you would never eat it?
I don't like Arrow bars.
Ooh, I kind of like the texture of Aero bars. They don't really have those so much in America. It's more of like I feel like that's more of like an English thing,
I'm
British thing.
I'm seeing like candy in front of me. Yeah, the Arrow bars. No. Candy that I hate. That's a good one. I mean, yo, people would give out like Welch's. Like to me, Welch's is a snack.
Like the
And
fruit snack.
yeah, the fruit snack. Like I don't want that as my Halloween candy. Like Welch's, the like
Ooh, I would
Ritz
I would
crack-
love that as a Halloween candy.
really? No, I can get that as a snack.
I like it as a candy with the crackers. Whoppers. I'm not a fan of Whoppers.
Never heard of that.
Milk Duds
I know what milk duds are. Milk
get
duds.
stuck in your teeth, really stuck in your teeth. I'm not like I don't like the outside of like Skittles. I'm not really into like that type of candy. I'm more so a chocolate guy.
Didn't
But
Skittles get pulled from the U.S. or something?
I don't know. Don't spread that
Yeah, I
that
won't.
gossip.
Yeah, you don't want to know what's in Skittles, but Skittles gummies are fire.
Well,
You get Skittles gummies, the gummies,
I haven't. I
fucking
haven't.
so good. You go out and fucking buy them.
Charleston Chew. You ever mess with one of those? A mini Charleston Chew?
No, I don't know what that is.
Delicious. Kind of like marshmallow with chocolate on it.
Okay, Charleston Chew.
Should we move on or
Yeah, I can be done. I can be done with Halloween. You're pretty excited about the Larsa.
the Larsa Pippen news?
Yeah,
Well, just to give like some context to what you're talking about, I saw a tweet maybe like 20 minutes ago that said Larsa Pippen confirms that she's going to change her last name to Jordan when she marries Marcus Jordan.
and are
Right?
they engaged?
I don't know. I just think like I saw that headline and I was like, wow, like that's a great headline because she's changing her name from her last name from Pippen to Jordan, and she's marrying her ex-husband Scottie Pippen's teammate Michael Jordan, greatest of all time. His son, she would marry his son. Like that is wild shit to me,
That's actually crazy. Yeah, Pippen and
right?
Jordan.
Yeah, I sometimes like a story will just like pop out and it's just like
Yeah,
that feels like made up, but like very real.
100%. And the other story on that note is the Skims NBA partnership, in my opinion.
I know you're really excited about that, huh?
I just thought it was very random. I saw that and I was like, what's Kim doing with the NBA? But is it not a woman's underwear brand? Like that's what I'm not understanding.
Well, I was gonna ask, do you wear Skims or no?
I thought you did. That's why I was very excited for you. No, I don't. They have a
I
new.
think it's a women's brand. Yeah, I do.
It
I
is.
believe it's
I
a
swear
women's
it's all women brand. So I was confused as to why all women brands partnering with the NBA. But like they I just saw it because Barstool's been tweeting about it. Like
brand.
they just came out with a new product, like the always hard nipple bras. And
So yeah, so
you saw those?
yeah,
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
genius. By the way, they should have done the skim. Maybe we don't know enough about the story, but why wouldn't Skims have done a partnership with the WNBA?
I think we both know what. No, I'm kidding. Let's cut that.
Messed up, Cal. Messed up.
No, we're cutting it's
Wait, we're not cutting that. Can I tell you one other thing real quick?
no,
On
I
that?
love the WNBA, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me
Bro,
tell
you
you
know
another thing.
the Vegas Aces just won. They beat the New York Liberty.
Of course, I know. I am actually a fan of New York Liberty. They're in my
It's a great
backyard,
I
and
know.
Brianna Stewart, Sabrina. Trust
Sabrina?
me, I'm actually a big fan of WNBA right now. I feel like they're actually blowing up. The Aces are great. Here's a question that I had for you though. Okay, just kind of came to mind. My buddy sent me a tweet this morning from Clay Travis. I think it was Clay Travis. You know who Clay Travis is?
No.
He always does provocative, tries to say like provocative, like clickbaity type shit. And so it's some guy responding to what Clay Travis like either wrote or said. And it's basically he said that he thinks the best boys high school basketball team would just like destroy
Oh,
the
yeah.
Aces, the champion of the WNBA. And he was like trying to say, I'll put
I did
$1 million up.
see
And
that.
then
I
one
saw
of
that.
the Aces responded to him, was like, you're a clown or whatever. And then he's like, Glenn, put your money up, then put the money up. You bet me $1 million. If the high school, if you win, I'll pay you $1 million. If the high school team wins, then you give me $1 million. I'll give it to the high school kids, which he knows is never going to fucking happen. So it's just like that's the purpose of why he said it. But it is kind of fun to think about that scenario.
I'll say this. We like FC Edmonton, we played the Team Canada women's team, and I didn't directly play, but like I was part of the academy at that time, and this was under 15, so like we were all younger than 15, and played the Team Canada women's team who had just come back from bronze at the Olympics and beat them. So yeah, I mean yeah, under 15, like we're a FC Edmonton, like not a Prem Academy, not we're
Uh-huh.
decent ballers, but yeah, we beat the Canadian
I
women's.
get it, but maybe that says more about the women's Canadian women's national team more so than
Bro,
your team.
the Dallas uh, Academy beat the U.S. women's national team like 13 nothing, and the U.S. women's national team is world champions.
13-0 in basketball. That's not a basketball
No,
score.
in soccer, I'm still talking soccer, and I'm talking about the
Oh,
U.S.
you're talking soccer. You're talking soccer. Okay, but that's a little bit different. Soccer is very different than basketball.
Yeah, but I don't disagree with that statement. The best high school basketball team in the country, these guys are 18 years old. Like,
Uh-huh.
you don't think they would beat the just in term
I,
it has nothing to do with the bro, I think the WNBA, I think the girls are fucking ballers and, like, have more skill, but if you talk about athleticism over a man versus a woman, it's not fair, like, that's why men don't compete against women, and, like, it's just not I don't know why we're getting on this topic, and I fucking this is
you're
insane.
backing yourself into a corner.
Oh,
All right, how about this?
2 times, man. Fuck.
I get it. I get it. I think in like summary, you don't think girls are good at sport. No,
That's
I'm
not what I'm
joking.
saying. That's not what I'm
I
saying.
know. I know. I'm
I'm just
joking.
saying it's
I'm
not
joking.
fair to ask.
Compare boys and girls, right? I
Yeah,
get it in professional settings. All right, let's talk. Let's move on to the next topic, shall we?
yeah, please.
Let's talk half baked ideas.
Yeah, I want to hear yours first.
Okay, I'll give you mine first. If you must. So this was an idea that I was thinking very seriously about for 24 hours of like, should I go all in on this idea? I don't know why. I just had like this like epiphany, but then I kind of talked myself out of it. Whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
having being a parent and having kids, you play a lot of activities. They have a lot of activities on the weekend, right?
Hmm.
They're constantly going from place to place, whatever. But then there are these times where they are just at home and they have nothing to do. And some kids are okay with that. But like my oldest son sometimes will just be like, I want to have a play date. Like I'm so bored, like,
Yeah.
all this stuff. Right. And so it got me thinking, like, the way in which basically when that happens from there, it's like, my wife reaches out to somebody and is like, is your kid around? And if they're around, then we invite them over. But like, what if there was an app? This is an app where you can go. It would basically be like OpenTable for play
Yeah, you
dates,
see people's like schedules and shit, and you'd be able to reserve like a play date.
or just be able to say like, okay, my kid is available this afternoon, and then you could filter who you want to actually be able to see it. So maybe you have 10 friends
Yeah,
that
like
like you
you know,
actually.
like Milo says, so, but your son says, "I don't fuck with little Johnny." Then you wouldn't have little Johnny be able to see that.
Or you just don't want to open it up to everybody. There are some people, and so I think it solves for that. But then I also think like there are times where somebody will like reach out and be like, "Oh, does your kid want to have like a play date?" And then they'll be like, "Okay, we'll drop off our kid at your house," and you're just like, "What the fuck?" And like maybe in this instance you could say like, I'm willing to host, I'm willing to. And then once they have a play date, then all of a sudden you tie in all of these things like bowling alleys and like places where the kids go, 10% off at the bowling alley, or like, you basically like have all these brand tie-ins to advertise on the platform once a play date has been made. But yeah, it's kind of like open table for play dates, play dating.
You wanted to go all in on this?
Uh, for like, I would say if I'm being honest, like 8.5 hours one day. I didn't want to go all in. I just thought, wait a second, Eureka! Like I've
No,
solved it. I
it's a
figured
good
it out.
idea because I bet again, not that I have firsthand experience, but I can just imagine like trying to schedule play dates between kids who like are busy and like it's tough to coordinate between like parents. Yeah, I can just see that being like taking out a lot of time and being way more efficient than probably
Right. You hit somebody up and you're like, is little Johnny around? No, they're not. Okay. Then you hit the next person. Is little Charlie around? No, they're not. Instead, you go onto the app,
the
you
kid.
just say, my kid's around. It sends the notification. Then if somebody responds, boom, you got a play
Yeah,
date.
I actually think that's a good. Okay, you could have said that earlier. I get it now. I like that.
You get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that you need that in the pitch. What you just said in the pitch.
That made it more like
Yeah, like
clear and like,
okay, like you get a notification, all the parents see it. You can match to like little Johnny's parents now are like, oh, little Johnny's free too. I see that Derek's kid's free. Um, let's have a play date.
can I tell you this step two real quick? Stage two
Yeah.
is it can then also be used for kids that don't have as many friends. And then you kind of turn it into like the Tinder for play dates, right? Like
And not
Tinder
Tinder,
meet
but like
like
more so like remember I had an idea in early days around like
it's like literally play dating. What's your idea?
no, remember my idea? I think it was in maybe episode 3 or 4 around the networking
Oh, yeah,
thing.
where you
Like,
yeah, you would go out to like dinners or just like
yeah, like
people to just
yeah, you just like meet with like-minded people, or like you'd be able to like see not like to date, like not, but like as a friend thing or another connection. It seems similar, but like for kids.
yeah, but like this in this instance, the parent has the control. And like, so say
Yeah,
you have a
I
kid
get
that doesn't have a lot of friends, maybe you're like looking for some other parent who might have a kid the same age whose kid is into like
yeah,
whatever, anime or coding, or you know what I mean?
yeah. What would you say the most as a parent for
Yeah.
your children? What would you say the most important either piece of advice or learning you've taken to allow your kids to have ideally more friendships?
Be nice to everybody,
That's
like,
what you
don't be a
think?
dick. Yeah, I mean, like, just like I
Be
always talk
yourself?
to like
That
I talk to my kids just about like you want to be friends with everybody. Like even the people that you don't want to be friends with, you want to be friendly with, right? Because you want everybody to have a good feeling about you. You don't want anybody to have like bad feelings towards you, right? And you want to be a leader. Be a leader. That's another one that I like to say, right? Um
what is
but
being
just
a
be
leader
nice to everybody. What's
like,
that?
from like a kid standpoint, what does being a leader mean to you?
My dad used to say that to me all the time, and whenever I say it now, I think about him. But it always what it means to me and what I'm trying to get across is like you're playing sports, right? And like your team is doing bad sportsmanship, like you be the leader and tell them like be quiet, like you be the one that like shows them and sets the example, like be a leader, like
Yeah,
everybody thinks is saying, oh, we're gonna lose the game, like we have no chance, like just because we went down a touchdown. You say no, we're gonna get it back, right? Like don't worry about it, like be the leader. So in a sports context, like that's what it means. And then in like a school context, it's like include everybody, like be nice, like that type of thing.
I think parenting's got to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest job ever.
It is so hard, but like what you realize is just like you're never going to be prepared. You just figure it out on the fly and like
It goes back to
you know what I mean?
we're all just built
Huh?
life. Like it goes back to
Yeah,
and like
exactly. It's complete improv.
I think the interesting thing too is like, and I was thinking about this recently actually. So many people like who are now grown up look back and say like, you know, I either like I appreciate my parents' parenting style here, or like I feel like they could have been better here. I feel like they did this wrong. But at the end of the day, like as much as us growing up, it's our first time experiencing these things because we're kids and we've never done all these things. It's our parents' first time experiencing those things as a parent as well, unless maybe you're a third child and they've experienced. But like me as a first child, like it was anytime I did something first time for me, but I can't judge my parents because it was their first time as parents in that same situation. So I think just understanding that as we grow up, like, is interesting.
Well, and also what you realize is like as a parent, like me as a parent, like I'm not perfect. Like I do things every single day
As a
that
parent, you're not perfect.
yeah, well, yeah, but like, I'm like, I'll
No,
give
I
you
know,
an
I know.
example.
I was
This morning, my kid was acting like so annoying and I lost it like in a brief moment and I screamed at him and I'm like, what are you doing? Like I screamed at him and he got upset and ran to his room and I felt bad. I gave him a second. I went in there. He was fine. But I was then after I was mad at myself. I was upset with myself. Like, how did I just lose it there? Like I just, like in a moment of like rage, like I screamed at him is so like again, you realize you're not perfect. Like we're never going to be perfect. And like even your parents make big time mistakes, right? They just they've been around, they've had more experience, so you have a lot more expectations from parents, right?
no doubt.
Tell
Um,
me your idea. And then we kind
yeah,
of went off the
I li
deep end.
no, I think it was a good conversation. I like that. My idea at first I thought it was stupid, then I thought it was actually kind of interesting, now I'm kind of in the middle, but my idea is around it's called Flight Swapper, and so, I don't know about you, but, like, when I travel, most of the time, I'm either booking, like, the basic fare because, like, I want, obviously, the cheapest rate, or, like, the economy one where, like, I can change it for a fee, but, like, I have to pay to,
Mhm.
like, change the flights if something comes up. Now, I mean, yo, as we all grow up, like, shit, it's tough to plan so far in advance, but, like, I've got flights right now booked for, like, April, for example, like, but, something might come up in April. I my idea was around, like, having some sort of, like, app or like interface where you could put in like where you're from and where you're going or like different inputs where like you could flight swap with people. So like for example, if like I have a flight to London tomorrow, and I'm going on the 2nd of November, and I fly back the 12th. Now, I wanted to see that Chelsea game next weekend, and I got tickets to it for a lot of money, but and the game wasn't scheduled yet. They said it was going to be on Saturday. I got changed to Sunday. My flight's on Sunday. I would love to be able to like if someone can stay in London an extra day or like needs to come back early, I want to see like different flights that people are trying to swap so that I can give them like my flight itinerary and they give me theirs. And it just kind of like neither of us pay an extra fee, neither of us have to cancel the flights or do any of that. We're just
Interesting.
swapping with each other and changing the name.
Like a marketplace almost for
Or-
flights in a way.
Yeah. Tell me that's not a little bit interesting.
That is a little bit interesting. That there's something very interesting about that.
Yeah.
It my first thought is like all the time, like, does that exist? Are we like being naive about it? Like there isn't
There's
something that
no
close.
way. I feel like there's no way, at least if it does, like whoever made it has not done a good job of marketing it, but there's no way that exists. Flight swap,
I
because
don't know.
there's got to be some sort. Like my mind went to there being some sort of barriers around the legality of like once you book a flight and you like put your all your information, your full name in and stuff, you're kind of locked in. So there need to be some sort of technical aspect that
Yeah,
like
maybe there is stuff
if-
that
if
we're overlooking.
there for sure is. Um, but even then, I'm sure like you could find a way because all it would be is like if me and you like sign a contract, like if you put yours up and I put mine up, and then we like it's kind of like I'm offering you a trade, right? I offer you the
Right.
trade for the flight. You're down, like you're like, okay, yeah, I want to be there for an extra 2 days. I'm like, shit, I need to come back early. I'm down to come back early. Now we both accept the trade, and that's us signing like a virtual contract that says our information on those flights will be swapped. We won't see either of them. We'll sign the trade saying yes, and the information will be swapped.
Does it have to be like swapping flights? Like, could it just be like, I have this flight and I'm willing to get like almost a StubHub
Like,
for like
yeah, it
for
could
like
like
flight?
I just can't cancel this flight and get any like return or money. Like I bought it for 700, but I'm listing it for 500. Like
Or
kind of like
just
that.
kind of like arbitraging
You could
flights in a way
arbitrage.
because right because think about or like if let's take an example. People like to go down to Florida, right? In over Christmas in like the Northeast. Sometimes as you get closer to Christmas, those flights get, crazy expensive. They're booked. They're fully booked, right?
Yeah,
But maybe if I had those tickets or I had like a couple of tickets, right? And I'm like getting closer to um Christmas, I'd sell those tickets for like whatever, a lot of money because somebody's
I got you.
willing to buy the flights. They need to get there. Or is that just
I like that.
again, I feel like maybe I'm missing some piece of the puzzle there, but there is something interesting about what you're talking about in terms of like a marketplace for being able to have more flexibility with what you want to do with your ticket.
Yeah, and like I guess the thing that most people would say is like, yo, I can buy a fully changeable ticket, but like on every airline, you're paying an extra few $100 for that, and most of us, again, are when we're traveling, we're looking for the cheapest flights, get from point A to point B. So most of us aren't booking those. At least I'm making that assumption. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think there's something interesting there. That's my idea.
Okay.
I actually
I
kind of
get
like
that.
it more as I just talked about it to you.
I'm going to say something that we don't usually say very often. That's very interesting. Because by the way, I watched last episode and we dropped the word interesting maybe 4,000 times, but
On what?
this was awesome. Interesting. I don't know. We just say interesting all day. It's like a filler word. It, you like you would be like, what's interesting about that? And then you
Oh,
would
like
say
in
something.
that context.
You know what? Yeah, you know what's
We wouldn't be
interesting
like
about that?
wouldn't be like Derek. That's interesting. It was more so like this. Yeah, I got you. Yeah,
We just kept going back and forth with
about what was
word
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Speaking of interesting, should we move on to the next segment, which is a show, movie, or movie that you've watched?
What
And
I've been waiting to talk to you about is since you're a footy guy,
Yeah,
Beckham on Netflix.
yeah.
And I know you've seen a couple episodes. How many episodes have you
I
seen?
just watched the first one, honestly.
First one. I've watched 3 or 4. I can't even remember. I think I might have watched the whole thing because I think
He
it's
is
there's only 4 episodes. I think maybe there's 4 episodes.
okay. Yeah, would you as like as not a footy guy and as like probably not that I knew everything about Beckham that was in there, but like what'd you think?
Well, I thought that first off, I started following like the game maybe it's hard for me to remember at this point, but one of the World Cups like back in the day. I think it was when they were hosting in Germany. When was that?
Do you remember who won the World Cup?
I don't.
It wasn't the I want to say the Italy France final with Zidane the headbutt was in Germany.
Maybe Germany, and then it was, and then maybe I
2006.
saw the one. Yeah, I think maybe it was 2000. 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2000.
2010 was South Africa. 2006 was Germany with the headbutt, which was, in
Yeah,
my opinion, 2006 was the best World Cup in the last like 20 years.
yeah, it was so good. And Germany was like specifically was great because they had music after all the goals, and there was like this amazing music. But so I kind of like coincided with Beckham. Like, when did Beckham start his career? Do you have any like sense of that?
Beckham would have been playing in like the late 1900s, late 19,
Late
late,
1900.
late 90s, late 90s, late 90s.
But he played. Okay, so he started in the late 90s. You're
Yeah,
saying,
late 90s, early 2000s.
and retired when, like 2000 what?
Beckham's probably been retired for 2014,
Okay.
2015.
So my takeaways are pretty much this. One is like he kind of came up during like the boy band era, right? And like on top of just being an incredible soccer player, he had this like all these different like fashionable like looks,
Yeah.
right? How you doing? And he he like he had like the ponytail and he had like he had all these looks. And so the thing that kind of like stood out to me was first off like he's in the World Cup, right? And he gets that red card, right?
Yeah.
Which was very controversial. And honestly, like it was a bullshit call. Like that was the guy like took a dive, right? He gets this red card and he is literally like hated in England for the next like year. Like he's harassed for months.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know about that. And the reason I bring up the whole boy band thing is because it's like I felt like he was considered like a pretty boy in England at the
He
time.
was.
And
Yeah.
like they took all their anger out on him. And it was really kind of I was surprised by that. I didn't really know about that.
I not to cut you off. I think the interesting thing about Beckham and something that like I I was in England in the early 2000s, like living there and remember like some of the stories and the issue always with Beckham was that it was always so much more than just foot. I'm gonna call soccer
Right. Yeah, yeah,
football.
yeah.
It was always more than football for him. Like he kind of paved the way, and then you could see guys like Ronaldo go that way, Bale, Neymar, certain players who were influential. But he was the one who paved the way, where it was like until David Beckham, everyone who was playing football was focused on football, and that was it.
Right.
David Beckham's career was more so like the reason he moved from Manchester United and went to Real Madrid, then he went to LA Galaxy. His career was more so business decisions. He wanted to get into acting. He was doing a bunch of modeling. He was doing so many different things. He was an entrepreneur, not a football player. Even though he had all the talent in the world, the focus wasn't always on the pitch. And as fans, it was an easy person to lash out at and
Right.
fucking go after when things were going well.
He definitely seemed like he loved being in the spotlight and being a celebrity. Obviously, like his relationship with Victoria Beckham, Posh Spice. By the way, they should do a Spice Girls documentary. I'd watch the shit out of that. But I thought their relationship was interesting. I didn't realize kind of the relationship that he had with Sir Alex Ferguson,
Yeah,
and
I was
that was an interesting relationship.
I was about to say like because that was honestly I love the Sir Alex by Autobio.
Hmm.
I would definitely, if you like footy and you like that, I would read it. Like it's good.
He
It's a
seemed like he was very tough on David Beckham.
yeah, but because of the fact that again, like he's a not no nonsense,
No,
like
you're right.
but with Beckham doing all these other things, he needed to kind of lay the law down. And yeah, I remember reading in his book, like one of his biggest regrets was the way things ended with David, with him going to the locker room, throwing a shoe at his head. Like,
Oh, he kicked it. He kicked it, I
yeah,
think.
sorry, kick the shoe at his head. Like, bro, just like, yeah, in the book, however many years ago I read it, that was one of Sir Alex's biggest like career regrets in the way that he dealt with that. And so, yeah, it was just interesting to see. But I think, again, when you've got big personalities like Beckham, you need to lay the law.
And that Real Madrid team was pretty cool with Ronaldo and with
Yeah.
who else was on that team? Zidane and
Also
like
in there. And then, like, um, well, yeah,
what they call them? The Galacticos or like
the Galacticos.
yeah. Yeah, it's like all the superstars.
They,
I mean,
no, I was going to say, while we were on here, I said his career ended in 2014. It was 2013. So I was 1 year off. But
okay.
so,
And then he went to LA and then he like went back and forth and now he's like in Miami and he's just like kind of obviously he's bigger than the game, right? Like he's had this amazing career. But the other thing that I didn't realize was how OCD he is. Like, and I think you'll find that out kind of as you watch the rest of it is just he's very in his personal life like he's got a lot of he's got you could see he has like a lot of like inner conflicts, things that he still holds on to, little like personality quirks.
okay.
So I thought he's a pretty fascinating, um, you
Individual.
know, figure, individual, or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
I thought it
And I
was
enjoyed it.
from from watching the first episode. I thought they did a good job. Like
Uh,
documentaries aren't all created equal, and I thought it was engaging. And again, probably helps that I like footy, but I think anyone could watch that and appreciate Beckham's story.
sure, for sure. Do you have a show? Is that your show?
That's my show. I'm not.
All right, so what should we talk? Should we just segue right into sports? I mean, we already are talking Beckham. We haven't talked sports maybe ever on the pod, or maybe like once or twice.
Yeah, yeah. Let's dive in sports. I mean, I feel like a good place to start is I kind of want to start with the fact that the World Series is on right now, and to your point, no one's watching it. The baseball ratings must be low as ever,
Yeah.
and it's insane that I mean, man, it's I work for a sports agency actually, so I shouldn't and we represent MLB players. So actually, what I was about to say, I probably shouldn't say, but I just realized. But no, I just think that again, like, bro, they put in the pitch clock this year, which 15 seconds till he has to pitch, which has sped up the game a little bit, and I do appreciate that that's there, but it hasn't done enough for the sport in general. I think that like again, man, like you look at these other leagues like the NBA, the NHL doesn't do a great job, but the NFL does as well. Like the four North American sports leagues, they always find a way to elevate their stars and make it marketable in terms of like the finals. How many years in a row was LeBron James in the finals? How many years in a row was Steph? Like the biggest players are playing on the biggest stage. And I mean, do you know anyone on the Diamondbacks or the Rangers? Like I know a few, but
Maybe like a couple
yeah,
guys. I know obviously Scherzer and DeGrom just because they were Mets. Like,
yeah, but
no, not really.
and so it's not as marketable. These teams were also the like two of the last teams to make the playoffs, which makes for a great story. And I really hope the Diamondbacks were the last team to make the playoffs, and they're down 3-1 right now. I really hope they win because I've seen two bets. One guy bet 10 grand at plus 10,000 when the Diamondbacks were like started the year, were horrible, one of the worst teams in the league. Bro, he has a
Uh-huh.
$10,000 bet to win $1 million, and the Diamondbacks were 4 games away from the or 3 games away from the World Series.
That's a good bet. I want to, but I want to go back real quick and ask you a question because I have a theory on this myself. But why do you think that baseball has become so hard to watch? Like baseball was like America's pastime. obviously when you look back like 30, 40, 70 years ago, whatever, like baseball was America's sport.
Yeah,
What has happened? What's changed that you think has made it so, not, I wouldn't call it unpopular, but obviously it's like not anything close to what it once was.
probably a couple of different factors. One of the factors I would say is with the emergence of social media, with the emergence of just like our attention spans are short as all of us are short as
Yeah.
fuck. We can't like football. It's sure there's less commercials, but it's high collision, high action. Hockey, the same thing. Basketball, something is always happening. Someone's always scoring. All these sports, at least that are doing better, probably in terms of growth and popularity, always are engaging and have something happening. Baseball is just too slow for our attention spans, like in terms of like strike, nothing happened that play. Ball, like strike, like homer.
Right.
Enough. There's not enough stimulus.
The pace isn't fast. It's not a fast enough pace, and it's like when you think about it in those terms, the way you're describing it, it's almost like when you're watching basketball or football or hockey. Every time they score points, you're getting like these little hits of serotonin, right?
Yeah,
It's like being at a what's it called? Like when you're doing the slot machines, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
get you get that little like excitement. I'm watching fantasy football. Oh my god, just scored! The points just popped up. I'm like
yeah,
so
yeah.
pumped up. And baseball, unfortunately, like, and I used to be the biggest baseball fan. I was a diehard Mets fan. I would watch every single game. And then at a certain point, I really do think the theory is that you have is correct in the sense that like the way that we are with our phones, the way that we are with like immediate gratification and just like not ever being bored, baseball is like kind of getting lost in the annals of history in that way. Is like it's just from a different time, and I don't know that it's ever going to go back in the other direction. I don't know that that's even possible.
There need to be a drastic change. I think the 9 innings too. It takes a long time. The one interesting thing I'll say about baseball, and someone was telling me about this recently because they went to a game, and it's a small town. Cooperstown, I think, is where they play, which is where the MLB or the MLB Hall of Fame is, right? I believe.
Yeah,
But
Cooperstown. Yeah.
Cooperstown, but there's a team there who plays maybe single A ball or something, but they're called the Bananas. And
Yeah, I know about
you know what I'm
that.
talking about? Yeah, I just
Yeah,
heard
they're like the Harlem
yeah,
Globetrotters.
baseball. Yeah, like they wear
They
like
had a lot of people following them on social media.
yeah, they like bounce on trampolines and throw the baseballs. Like the guys are like doing backflips and hitting, but they're legit baseball. Like they're not obviously MLB players, but they're legit baseball players and it's good ball. And bro, they sell out their stadium and every time, and the fans are going for the entertainment experience. And I think that's interesting, right? Sports, look at the leagues. Like sports has become an entertainment business where, at the end of the day, you're trying to constantly engage fans and grow your fan base. And I think that other like the NFL wanted to be branded like the WWE is entertainment. The NFL is actually the only league to go to the last legs of legal battle around getting the league as an entertainment business, not a sporting entity, which says a
Mm.
lot about where they were trying to take it, and which is why it's kind of ironic and funny that like the whole commercials with different players with the scripts. Because if it was an entertainment business, it legally can be scripted, and it's not.
And
So,
what about the way that they've been leaning into all the Taylor Swift stuff? I mean, like it's
oh,
almost like they set it up in some way.
I wouldn't be, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Taylor
Or
Swift, Travis Kelsey stuff,
if they didn't, at least they're like leveraging it hard and
and
using it to make a lot of money in
as a
revenue.
business, why wouldn't you? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the baseball thing is interesting.
Interesting, interesting. All
Yeah,
right, but you want to know what okay, so baseball I don't watch. The football I'm watching. The basketball, I'm not watching the World Series because I'm in basketball season. I'm watching the Knicks.
the Knicks
Real quick, did you
won
see?
last night. I saw that big
Yeah,
one.
they did. They did win. Did you see Wemby dressed up in the Slender Man
Yeah,
Halloween
probably the
costume?
best Slenderman costume that there ever could be. I did see that. He's walking.
That guy, that guy is amazing to
Oh, he's
watch. If
nice.
have you seen like his when his arms are like all the way down, like straight down? It's like what planet did this guy come from?
He's a
He's amazing to watch.
he's he needs to put on some muscle like anyone who's that height, but he's so coordinated for being that tall and like again, knock on wood, but barring any injuries, he'll be a fucking stud in the league for years to come. He's good.
I worry about him from an
Yeah, me too.
injury standpoint,
Me too.
but you know, I will say that I'm very excited about the Knicks. The Knicks, in my mind, like have turned around their entire organization. They've kind of changed the culture, and they're my team. They're my number one. So like
But
I just feel like they have finally cemented themselves as one of the better teams in the East. They're not top two. They're probably going to be in the 3 to 5 or 6 kind of playoff range, but they're solid every night they come to play. I love their team.
I think they just got heart, right? Because if you look on paper, I wouldn't the Knicks could be a top 4 team in the East, but on paper, I wouldn't say that's the case. Like, but guys like again, you're getting so much out of guys like now Brunson cemented himself in the league. Now Julius Randle, whatever your opinion is on him, he comes to play. Mitchell Robinson gets fucking boards. Fucking Grimes is doing his thing. Like,
Quickly, DiVincenzo,
yeah,
like
bench is
Harden.
like I'd love quickly, but that's
They're
been
deep. They're
my
so
favorite thing.
deep. They're deep. And by the way, your Canadian boy,
RJ.
RJ Barrett,
Oh, he's doing
has
his thing.
played the best of anybody. Yeah,
He's
of
doing his thing.
anybody this season. Maybe
He's been
he's
looking
taking the
good.
lead. They
Everyone's like,
always they always
he,
they always mention him as like the main ship that would be traded in any kind of trade. So like that's the only thing is like I'm always worried, not worried, but I'm always just like, oh, he's playing great, but they're gonna like trade him for Joel Embiid and in some package with a bunch of other guys in first round picks. Which I don't even know how I feel about that.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens though. As it didn't.
You know, and all these guys are kind of going all over the place.
For your
Harden ends up in
the
the
East,
Clippers.
then.
Top teams. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point, you got to say Celtics are number
yeah, it's
one.
got to be the Celtics, and then it's got to be the Bucks.
Is it though? The Bucks. Yes,
It
I
has to
think
be
it's Celtics
Dame,
and Bucks. I would still kind of put Heat up in that spot. Like they don't. They kind of like
bro.
hold out until the playoffs.
But the Heat aren't the second. The Heat are not the second best team. The Heat are one of those teams where they don't care about regular season standings because, like at the end of the day, with baseball, with any sports, we've seen that you could be 8 seed and you can get the job done. It's all about momentum come playoffs. But I don't think the Heat are better. You can say that the Heat are better than the Bucks or the Celtics.
But why not? They literally destroyed the Bucks in the playoffs. They return
Oh,
their whole
Dame,
team. The Bucks lose their best defensive guard in Drew Holiday. They pick up one of the best offensive guards in Dame. I don't know that they definitely and I think it's closer than you think. I do, and I honestly I know I'm biased, but I just think this Knicks team is going to give any team like trouble in a 7 game series. I'm not saying they can beat the Celtics, but they beat the Celtics every game they played in during the regular season last year, or for the most part, and then they blew this first game. And Porzingis played awesome, and
I saw that.
he's a really sneaky addition that they made, but.
He is.
NBA season's great, man. I love it. It's really my favorite thing to watch. That and football.
I'll say this: I personally think that if the Bucks played the Heat right now today, that they would sweep them.
Who would the Bucks would?
Yep. Dame's that good, bro.
Off of what? Off of what? Just because of the name, the superstar name, and having Dame and
Let's see. I hope they play
the
each
team
other in the
together.
playoffs again. Just off of the
Yeah,
starting five. I
I
don't.
don't know. I don't.
We're also timing wise here. I
Well, we're running up on time.
Yeah. I just want to be be mindful.
All right.
Um.
Okay. So let's talk about the next thing. Get me off of sports.
No, UFC though,
Oh, okay.
and the
Okay.
whole UFC community. I think Ngannou, Fury. I watched a little bit of it. Fury only has had 4 knockdowns in his whole career, and Ngannou was one of them. Like, which again is a UFC fighter. His story is crazy, coming from like the streets of Cameroon, moving to France, like the whole Pomp, if you can look at it, Pomp. I always forget which one, Anthony or Joe did. The one who covers sports did like a full background of Ngannou, and his story's insane. But yeah, I think for the whole UFC community, like him showing out like that and going toe to toe, I honestly thought he should have won that. But for Fury's sake, they gave it to him. But yeah, I thought it
Would
was
you say that like Jake Paul is kind of like the pioneer of like
celeb.
all of these crossover type? I mean, I guess maybe it's not him. Like, who was the first UFC guy to have a boxing match? Was it McGregor? Like, who was it?
McGregor and Floyd fought, no?
Yeah,
So it would have been that.
I guess that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's very impressive, but at a certain point, I feel like a really like amazing, strong fighter is like, yeah, it's not incredibly surprising that he would be a good boxer too. You know what I mean?
True, true. But as a UFC fighter, you have to be a good wrestler. You have to be a good martial artist. You like most of the UFC fighters aren't just training boxing. So the fact that like Tommy, Tyson Fury is the best, probably heavyweight of all time in just training boxing, and Ngannou can come in. I know obviously he's not in his prime, but Ngannou can come in and knock him down with only training specifically boxing for not as long. Like I think it's a
Do you
great.
think Fury's the best heavyweight boxer of all time?
No, not the best. Not the best, but in as of like the last.
Right. He's like the champion. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, not of all time. Not of all time.
And I get that what you're saying is like Ngannou like is basically he when he's like training, boxing is just or like punching or sparring, whatever you want to call it, is just one part of what he does as a fighter, right? As an
Yeah.
MMA fighter. Um,
Yo,
but yeah, it's interesting.
and one thing for me, just last note on the sports thing is like I've never loved the UFC or watching the UFC, but as of recent, man, it's they're doing a good job of marketing it, and it's just super fun to watch in terms of like how strategic these guys are with again like their grappling, their fucking jujitsu, like the punches, like the 10 leg kicks to get his like I actually love watching the UFC right now. It's one of my favorite things. So um yeah, I don't know how much you take into the UFC, but
I'll tell you what I think they've done the best job on is like they've legitimized that like that sport, and I think it's in large part because they have so many great personalities and they do such a good job marketing around those personalities. And so like every time there's a big fight, now I know who all the guys are and I'm
yeah,
like excited, you know? And now I don't know who the boxers are outside of like
no,
the real like champions, the heavyweight there's probably like lightweight and featherweight champions. I have no idea who they are, but I know all the contenders now in UFC. So you got to kind of tip the cap to the sport for the
Dana,
job that they've done.
Dana. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Anyways, that's sports. I like that. We want the sports segment more often.
Yeah. Get
So,
some sports in.
but yeah, we should we get into our last segment with a life takeaway?
Yeah. Let's do it. You want me to go?
Sure.
Okay. So I had two kind of things that are kind of on my mind, and they are patience and progress, right? Patience and let's call it slow progress, because I think with the patience part of it, I just feel like lately I've been acknowledging that like we're all in a hurry to get where we want to be, right? Whether that's in our career, whether that's in our like lifestyle expectations, in relationships.
Yep.
Um, but things never really happen as quickly as you want them to. And everything, like in everything in life, it takes time. Um, I think something that where I've developed a lot of patience is I coach the flag football teams, right? With these kids, they're 8 years old and they're 5 years old, right? I have two
Yep.
teams that I coach. And somebody said that to me the other day, like, you're saying it takes a lot of patience. And it does. It takes so much patience to just like kind of be around that age, those two ages of kids, and just,
Yeah.
they're always just acting out and they're on 10 at all times, right? And
Yeah.
I think that like you realize that if you don't have patience, you're not really cut out to be the right person for that job. But
100.
to kind of tie it back to like my own thing, it's like I also feel like when it comes to patience, there's also progress that needs to be made, right? And so really I have gotten into this habit of trying to like train my mind of working towards the things that I want and trying to make progress towards those things every day and trying to really remember that things don't get accomplished overnight, right? Like it takes time. Anything that you pursue, it takes time. And that the thing that you can do to not get overwhelmed, to not kind of like feel like you're behind, is to just every day get those wins of just making
Micro wins.
progress. Yeah, the micro wins. And so, one example of that is just that, like, and I told you this, and you kind of like, um, the way that you are, you kind of signed up for it too. But like, I got QuickBooks the other day. I had a friend that kind of convinced me to get QuickBooks,
Yeah.
and it was because it was like, okay, I need to get a better grasp on my personal finances. Like, I'm at this age where I'm taking, I'm like tracking it all in an Excel like spreadsheet, and I'm just like, and I need a better way to do this. I
Yeah.
need a better overview of what I'm doing, and so um, yeah, I guess patience and progress. Those are the two kind of takeaways that I have this week. How about you?
I'm gonna throw in a third P. Third P, presence. I think that again, you talk about patient and progress. The the word that comes to mind for me is presence because, and I would have talked about this earlier, but it is a continuous problem for me being 22 years old and having a lot going on and trying to do a bunch of different things. I every day am like, fuck, like I can't wait for a year from now when hopefully I done this or I have this or my relationship looks like this or I'm in a new house. There's so many fucking things that I think about daily that aren't directly impacting my day to day and then influencing me to not be present in this podcast or in that meeting or with this person that I'm hanging out with or with my family. And so I think again, like I'm trying to figure out what the best practice to allow me to be present as much as possible is. Whether again, I used to sometimes, every hour take a minute and just like take deep breaths and just like really take in, reflect on the last hour and just take in, you know, what my day looks like. Or, I know some people journal. Like there's different strategies and I haven't found the best one for me yet. But I would just say again, like being able to, learn from the past, set yourself up for the future, but live in the moment is, where I want to be and what I want to preach. And it's hard.
Well, look, I think like one of those things that a lot of people do to be present, and I don't do myself, but I've always kind of hoped at some point I would pick it up is meditation, right? And I
Yeah.
think like when people talk about meditation, they're always talking about how like your mind is just kind of wandering and then you have to kind of rein it back in, and just like rein it back in to just like not be thinking about anything. And so I think there's like a similar kind of theme in regards to just being present is like it's great that you're at least acknowledging that like you want to be more present. And so maybe it's just being able to acknowledge it and bring yourself back into that moment, and just be grateful for those moments, like wherever you're at when you're waking up in the morning. Cause I mean, look, everybody does it. Everybody's thinking about the past. Everybody's thinking about the future.
Well,
It's the power of now, Cal. It's the power of now.
yeah. No, for real. For real. But all right, bro. I like that. That was good. That was a good pod. Lucky number 13, November 1st. Hope this comes out soon. We out. Peace. Good to see you.
Good to See you, man.
Thank you for tuning into the Put On Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to follow us on social at the Put On Pod.